Hi everybody! Today is time for a little bit of fun with my random generator challenge. And for anyone not familiar, this is where I use a random number generator to choose an issue of Colouring Heaven from my rather large collection by now and a page number for us to colour in. So that what I'm actually going to colour today is as much as mystery to me as it is to you guys at the moment. And once we've got the issue number and the page sorted out, we'll see what we can actually randomise from there, whether I have any other ideas for the page or not. So let's get started. And the minimum number we can start from is 50. So I'll just pop that in. We can start from issue 50. And the maximum, I think, at the moment, if we get that going on, that is 127, I think is actually the maximum. So we can minimize and generate to get an issue number for us to work in, and issue 126. And that will be last month's issue. So I will go and grab that one first of all. Okay, so I've been and grabbed issue 126, and I can't believe how much luck I am having with these issues at the moment. Issue 126 is Mermaid Special. If I zoom us out a little bit there, it is Mermaid Special, and that fits in so well with it being May this month for Mermaid. So we do have 48 images in this issue here, so let's randomise a page for us to be colouring in that one. There we go, I think we're close enough there. So our minimum now will be 1, and our maximum will be 48. Minimize and generate. Number 46 we can see there, so image number 46. Let's have a look what image number 46 is. Clear away the tablet there, look for image number 46. Okay, Catfish Mermaid. So that will be interesting. Yeah, that will definitely be an interesting one today. And what I did last time was I actually randomised a colouring challenge to bring in and see if we can get anything interesting going on with that. And what I've actually done is I've written down a list of colouring challenges. So I thought it might be interesting to maybe try again randomising a colouring challenge and hope we don't get the same one again. And I've been online back to Colour with Claire's website. So some of these are the same ones from Colour with Claire's website. And to make us up to an even number, I added a few that I found at the back of a PDF from CocoWyo that I downloaded. So we do have a few little different ones at the bottom as well there, just to round us up to 20. So out of those, let's see what we do end up with for this mermaid here. And maybe we'll end up randomizing some art supplies and stuff like that as well. So now we are going from 1, we can leave that as is, and 20 to generate a colouring challenge. Number 6, if we can see there what number 6 is. Number 6 from Colour with Claire's website is a blend into white. There we are, blend into white. And what that means is instead of bringing in darker and lighter shades of each colour that you're using, you will just use each single pencil and blend it out into white to try and get some shading and highlights going on, using the white of the paper to come through as your highlight and maybe adding more pressure onto your pencil to give you the gradation, the difference in shade and highlight there. So that might actually be interesting, blend into white. I don't usually do that, to be perfectly honest with you, but it's worth having a little go, I think. Let's blend this out again. Or zoom us out, or zoom us out rather. Yeah, I've got blending on the brain now. And should we randomise a colour palette then for our little mermaid here? It might be interesting. I think with the blending into white, I'm probably going to have to stick to coloured pencils. So let's have a look what colour palette we can actually come up with and try and actually do it right this time. So this is my book of colour palettes, The Designer's Guide to Colour Combinations by Leslie Cabarga. I'll try and link that down in the description below again. I think our colour palettes start on page 18 and they end up on page 143. I think last time I just put in 43 instead of 143, so we did end up with quite a low number. And I did forget that on each page there are actually only 4 colour palettes, so I ended up going for the wrong one. So I'll zoom us in a little bit again. Try not to make this introduction last super long. So we are going from 18 for this one, next to 143, and go. I think we did actually have a number there. I always mess up something. 113 we have as a page number there. Okay, this is page 113. And there are only 4 colour palettes there. It might be quite interesting to get this teal and green one for a mermaid. That might be quite interesting. And we have a pink one, yellow and black, and we have this blue and yellow. Those are both the same colour palette, which I forgot last time. And there will be, unfortunately, a lot of zooming out on this one. We'll zoom in again. Randomize a colour palette. So I'll try and do this right. Minimum 1, maximum is 4, not 2. Minimize and generate. Number 3. Okay, disregarding all of the little mistakes I made there. Number 3. These two are the same one, so that would be 1, 2, 3. Oh, I had to open my mouth there, didn't I? And so we have teal and green. It is basically a 3 shades of teal, so it's basically a monochrome kind of design we've got going on here, except this darker one looks more like a dark kind of green, coming into more of a minty green there, and a teal, so maybe that's what we can go for this one. We'll be blending into white, and I thought what I could also maybe bring in is an embellishment. Seems I can't really randomize my art materials. It would be quite difficult to blend out into white with many of these, except maybe the watercolor. So I'm going to go with an embellishment to see what we can bring into this little lady here. Here's my list of embellishments. We can see there washi tape, glitter glue, stickers, metallics, stick-on crystals, and my choice of any of them. So this will be randomizing from 1 to 6. This is about all the randomizing we can actually do for this picture after having picked out that challenge to blend into white, although it might be quite interesting to try and blend into white with alcohol markers or something like that. But we're going to randomize from 1 to 6. Generate. Number 5, stick-on crystals, which is quite a good one for mermaids. So I'm going to incorporate some stick-on crystals, our kind of teal and green colour palette, and I'm going to blend into white. So I'll grab some pencils and we'll get started. Okay, I've picked out 3 colours that I think might work for this one, and I've chosen to go with Castle Arts Gold pencils. But before I show you those colours and start on the actual colouring, I will read out the description of the actual challenge from Claire's website. Again, I will link to that in the description below. But for the fade into white challenge or blend into white challenge, she says, you don't always have to blend into another colour for it to look good. The white of your page can work just as well, if not better. In the image opposite, and she does give an example, I blended each colour out into white by using lighter and lighter pressure as I came to the centre or the edge of the area. This technique gives a picture gorgeous shine and really makes it pop in a metallic kind of way. So I think maybe that might fit in quite well with our mermaid. And this challenge has basically boiled down to a 3 pencil challenge with the combination of all the randomizing things that we had going on there. And these are the 3 pencils I have picked out to use for this challenge. This was as close as I could get to the colour palette actually in our book. There was a dark green, and I've picked this one cadmium green, which is 062GP. That one there, which is this kind of really dark foresty or mossy green kind of colour. We have that colour there. For the mid-tone, I've picked out Phthalo Turquoise, which is 012GP. That's a nice kind of mid-tone to our colour palette there. Like that. That is slightly different. The one in the book is slightly grayer, but that is about the closest I could get. And I did check through all my different sets of pencils to see how well that would go. And yeah, that's the closest I could get. And for the very light colour, I did say mint green. This one is called mint green. A little bit crumbly there as I've just sharpened it, but that is the mint green. Hopefully that is showing up on camera. It is quite a pale green, as that is what we were aiming for. That one is called Mint Green 107GP, and basically those are the 3 pencils I will be using in this picture, and then bringing in some crystals possibly into the background to be like bubbles or something along those lines. So now to decide where to use all our different colours, and this is kind of a choice you have to come to when you do have a very, very limited palette, is which colour to use where. So that is something we also have to bear in mind, and the blend out to white kind of idea. And looking at this picture now, we do have lots and lots of scales on our mermaid's tail, but I am thinking that maybe we will disregard the scales and just colour the tail as a whole. Otherwise that would take forever. We'll be here forever trying to colour this little mermaid's tail here. So this is going to be quite a hard decision here, because we are going to have to save one colour for the background maybe, and then use the other 2 for the mermaid. This mermaid does seem to have a lot of markings to her, so it will be quite difficult to decide where to use these colours. But I've decided to dive right in with the lightest shade, the mint green, to maybe get a little bit of a skin tone going for our mermaid. She's a mermaid, she can have an unnatural skin tone. That is no problem. But we do want these markings to be showing up. So maybe we'll go for the mid-tone for those. And we are blending into white, okay. So let's see how this works. It's not something I really do super much. I usually bring in the lighter colours. And this pencil is a little bit crumbly. As I said, I just sharpened it, but I'm trying to blend into the white. I'm hoping that is showing up on the camera, but I'm putting a darker pressure or harder pressure to give a darker colour around the edges, which is what Claire suggested, around the edges into an area, blending in to maybe make our areas look kind of shiny. Yeah, that's working quite well. And for this part of her arm, we want that bit there to be lighter because she's raising up her arm, and this bit will need to be in light compared to the shadow underneath. We can't bring in the darker shades for actual shading, which is, yeah, going to prove a little bit tricky to kind of master. I'm not sure if this will work on such a detailed image, but we will give this a go. Maybe we can just leave a little bit of white on the edge as well and blend into white towards the middle of her arm. See how that goes. It is quite a good exercise in playing with your pencil pressure, actually learning how to apply lots of pressure to get the darker colours and easing off for your lights. This pencil is not the darkest pencil, so there's not going to be that much contrast. So maybe if we move up to the mid-tone, so for all the markings on her skin, we'll move on to this mid-tone, which is kind of the teal colour. We'll give our dark tone around the outside of this circle, try and blend into the white into the middle. See how well we can make that happen. And this way we can save the dark colour for the outside background of the water. And then use these light colours for the bubbles. This is the thinking. I'm not entirely sure how well that will work. These little teeny tiny bubbles I might have to do. Just completely colour those in. Okay, so we're back to blending into the white now with this kind of mid-tone colour. Should we define that edge of her markings? I'm not entirely sure. We're going to bring in a shadow for that string. Is that her hair? I'm not entirely sure. No, that's a fishing line. Obviously, it's got a hook on it. So we're going to put in the shadow, just bringing in my own little variation there, as well as blending out into white in the middle. Let's see how dark we can actually make this colour and how light. It's kind of the same technique as colouring with the one coloured pencil. I think I've done one video on that already. And it is something I do like to do, is just pick one colour pencil and colour a whole page with it. So the same kind of techniques as you do if you just use the one colour pencil to colour the whole page, except we do have a few colours to be actually playing about with. I'm going to try bringing in a little bit of my usual kind of shading, but just fading out to the white. Let's see how we can make that work. Okay, that's working okay, I think. Got some kind of idea of shadows going on. We'll try and blend this out into maybe giving a highlight down the side of her hand there to, yeah, as it said, go for a kind of a metallic look there. But I think this is the idea that we're supposed to do, is keep the edges as dark pretty much as you can make the pencil go, and then blend out into the white in the middle. And it does show how many different tones you can get with the one pencil. So yeah, it is kind of a little bit weird and not to be basing with a colour or blending into another colour. So we have the opposite kind of markings here. I'm just going to colour those flat, I think, just with the lighter tone there. Yeah, okay, we'll bring in the lighter tone for her nails. Okay, that's working. Yeah, I think we can go with that. Um, Tattoos on her arm would be the darker colour. Let's try and have the highlight towards the middle of the zigzag there, or these soften our pressure towards the middle of the zigzag. And for her arm, we'll come from the outside with our dark tone into a highlight in the middle. Kind of showing that her arm is curving around there, maybe. Okay, back to our lighter tone here for her skin. As with most of Nelleke Schumacher's pictures, they are kind of detailed. So we have a marking coming down her neck there, splitting down into these little kind of blobs here. So maybe we could make that into the darker tone. I'm not entirely sure what to do about her whiskers or her hair. I think it's one of those things where I'll cross that bridge when I come to it, which is something I do quite often. Basically, we do want to stick to the light tone and the kind of mid-tone for her skin so that we can bring in the dark colour for the background. So this fin can't be the dark colour because that is crossing over into the background there. But these markings could be, if I wanted them to be, just for a little bit of variety. I'm not sure whether to make this fin the mid-tone. I might make that fin the mid-tone just because it's a little bit easier to shade with the mid-tone. And how can we bring in the fading to white on this? Maybe if we do the ends of the fin and have the middle fading into white, possibly. Yeah. A little bit of trial and error with this fin here. As you can see, I have been and erased. But yeah, I'm thinking maybe having the dark on the edges of the fin and having it fade down into the white towards the mermaid skin. That way we don't have any kind of stark areas that we have to blend into each other. We can't really blend the pencils into each other, so we're having to leave the white here where the white already is, if that makes sense. Instead of having a flat area of dark there, it wouldn't look right with the white, I don't think. So I'm just colouring the edges of the fin and blending that into the white that way. Okay, yeah, it's kind of working. And for these markings, I'm thinking maybe to go for this darker green. Again, with the markings darker around the edges of the kind of circle or the blob, coming into the white in the middle. When you only have these few colours, it is kind of hard to figure out where each one is going to go, kind of in relationship to each other. But yeah, I'm thinking at the moment to make this marking here the kind of mid-tone. I'm calling this teal, the mid-tone. And no, we can't really have the dark green for her bikini top there because that would be coming into the background there. Unless we started with the dark here out into light and then we had the dark there going out into the background. Now that might work. And that would also make these the bikini top look separate from her skin. Yeah, I think we have a plan. I'm hoping I can make that work. So we'll carry on with this marking on her neck. And this will be with the mid-tone. Something along those lines. And we can use a crystal for this necklace here, I'm thinking. Coming back to the lighter tone of her skin here. Again, blending out into the white. Still trying to get a little bit of shading going on even with these very light colours here. And I was thinking, yeah, with this green, as we're going to have the dark green, very dark as the sea in the background here, I'll just pop that in so I've got myself a little bit of an idea how dark my background is going to be. We're going to blend out into the white around our mermaid. Okay, something along those lines. And I was thinking of having her actual costume here, bringing the green into there as well, but making sure that the the parts that are sticking out into the sea there, a bit of a shell here that's sticking out actually into the sea, that is where the white is coming in. So that we do have a difference between our mermaid and the actual sea. Something like that. I'm thinking about the places I would normally shade if I was using my full range of pencils and stuff like that. Maybe we can make that work. There are a lot of areas in this picture, and when you are working with a limited palette, the simpler the picture is, the easier it is to figure out where each colour would actually go without being too close to any other areas of the same colour. So we're coming in with the lighter skin tone under here now. It's kind of hard to get any difference at all with this very light green. Okay, we're getting pretty good there, I think. I'm going to finish off our costume with this dark green. And because we are actually inside the body now, we're not out near where the sea is going to be coming in. We can use a little bit more colour. We don't have to worry too much about where our white would be contrasting against the darkness of the background so much. And we'll do these kind of beads in the middle as well. Trying to shade them as if they are a sphere with the darker coming underneath here. We might be able to make these markings here the green. Just so that these markings on her arm that we did do with the green, these ones don't look as odd on her arm if she has got the green in other places. But we do want to concentrate on the medium tone and the light tone for her skin mainly, I think. There we go, something like that. And this would have a little bit of shadow here, thinking about it. But I'm not going to go super shadowy because yeah, we do have the dark background there. That is also green, so we can actually go slightly darker. Oh, even better. Let's see how dark we can go with the green in the background before we blend out into the white. That is working better, yeah. Really pressing hard there, giving us a darker background with this green. Then we can bring in the mid-tone and the light colour for the bubbles. Let's see how hard we can press with the mid-tone. Getting distracted. I should be colouring skin, but let's see what we can do there. Yeah, that's not bad for a bubble. That's not bad at all. A bit of shadow here to make it look as if it is behind our mermaid, and yeah, that's not actually bad for a bubble. Okay, let's get back to skin. Let's stop getting distracted. We'll go back to skin, and this is the mid-tone, the kind of teal colour that we're doing her skin markings with. Okay, we're coming down. She has got a lightning bolt. Oh my goodness, storms! She's got a lightning bolt kind of marking on her tail. I did not draw that in. That is already there. That is awesome. So it does fit in with my storms. Oh goodness. Honestly, I did not draw that in. Oh, I am looking so cheaty right now. I know, but I didn't. It was there in the first place. If anybody has this magazine, she does have a lightning bolt. Oh goodness. The fates are smiling on me. I should go and buy a lottery ticket. But I will do that lightning bolt in the green, again to bring in the green inside into our mermaid, away from the background. Oh, I can't believe that. We've got the lightning bolt. I'm not, as I said, going to go crazy trying to pick out every little scale. That would take quite a long time and I would get bored really, really quickly doing that tail. And I don't want to be forcing myself to do anything that I'm not particularly interested in doing. And I'm not particularly interested in colouring in every single little scale there, which is probably another reason that I don't colour mermaids all that often. If it's just a kind of a waist up sort of portrait or something like that, I think it might be the tails that put me off the mermaids. Come to think of it, probably all the scales, which is very odd because I do love dragons and dragons have scales. So yeah, let's see, where were we? This might be quite difficult here. The fin looking a little bit transparent. How to do that was just my my pencils. I want to make this main part of her tail with the mid-tone. This one is the phthalo turquoise. And I was thinking of making these fins the lighter shade, which is the mint green. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make them look transparent unless I do bring in a little bit of the mid-tone and suggest the scales underneath. That is maybe cheating a little bit, I suppose. I'll give a slight colour of this mid-tone underneath where the fin is coming, see if we can make that work. And then come over with the lighter colour. Let's see how we can make that work. So we're coming back to the mid-tone now around this fin. I have to bring some of it into the fin, I think. I'm still trying to keep within the challenge, but we are trying to make that fin look as if it is kind of transparent there. Okay, I think we're managing to fade into the light at kind of about the right place there, fading into the white or blending into the white. But this area here, around about where a person's knees would be, I think around this kind of area, where it would start bending down into the dark completely. I know mermaid anatomy is not the same as people, but people are what I know, so I'll do it around knee level, I think. That is where the highlight would be, so I'm quite happy with that. And yeah, I think if I was just using normal pencils, I would at least try and pick out these scales a little bit and make it look scaly, but yeah. I'm not feeling that at the moment. I think that would take way too long and it would be kind of hard with our limited colours. I would be using all three colours just to colour these scales, and then I would have no colours to colour the background or anything close to without it blending in too much. So I've just gone for the whole colour, just the one flat colour. That's not looking too bad. So we're back to the light tone now for these fins. Are we on camera? There we go. We're going to do these fins in the light tone and then figure out her tail. We do have a few more fins over there. These ones don't seem to be transparent. That one looks to be transparent-ish. This one not so much. We will have the mid-tone, I think, coming in here. This will be light because her scales we are doing in the mid-tone. So this part in the middle of her tail, that would be the mid-tone. Okay, moving on to a tail as we're kind of in this area here. We have a marking here. So how are we going to work this? We do have her arm coming across there. So I don't want her arm to be coming across a big area of the light tone. I don't want her fins to be going across a big area of the light tone. Oh, that makes it slightly difficult. It's looking as if this edge here, this outer edge of her fin, should be the mid-tone. So let's go in with that. I don't really want to bring any green into her tail, so we will be working with the light tone and the medium tone probably here. The background here, that will be the dark green of the background that we have chosen. So I want to try and stick with that, which means that these colours need to be standing out unless I'm going to give her a white outline. I'm not sure I really want to do that, but I want the light fins to be standing out from the tail, and I want her light hand to be standing out from her tail. We could bring in the green if we left these edges go out into the white. You do get these dilemmas when you have such few colours to be using. You do get these dilemmas of how to do it. We have run into the problem that we have her turquoise body there against the turquoise of her tail. That just needs to be, after a little bit of trial and error, we have to bring in more of the white because we are going behind. Either that or we need some white on the edge of her body there. That might work quite better, I think, if we erase that a little bit of the white on the edge of her body, just as a highlight down the back there. Could even bring in the white gel pen, although I am trying not to, and then we will bring the dark kind of mid-tone. I'm pressing quite hard there, bringing the mid-tone behind her body. That works better, I think. Okay, well that means that these fins, because we have the dark, the colour around there, you know what, I am going to bring in the white gel pen there to help that out a little bit. Okay, so I caved in and cheated a little bit with the white gel pen. It's my picture. Okay, we'll go back to the tail. I'm going to try and make this fairly dark with this light pencil. Proving slightly difficult. I want to have a very dark tone here so that her hand and her arm will be showing through there. Strangely enough, using just one pencil is a lot easier because then you are depending on your light and your shade rather than your different colours going together to get your different areas looking separate, I suppose is the way to put it. And that works a lot better than trying to use the 3 pencils and get each area separate. Yeah, I'm going to have to bring in the gel pen there as well, I think. Lisa Mermaid does have a quite a thick outline here. That should separate her from the background, if nothing else. Okay, this part of her tail we're doing with the darker colour. Again, adding a shadow for that rope. It seems to be working quite well, I think, for their tail so far. I'm not sure if these are bubbles or sort of markings on her tail. I think there might be markings on her tail because the bubbles kind of have a little shine to them, a little area of shine. So I'm thinking these are markings on her tail. So maybe I'll do those with the green, I think. Alright, quite liking how that's going so far. Yeah, not too terrible. I don't hate it. Let's do some of these markings in this green, I think. Maybe not all of them. Just a few to bring in that green again, showing that we do have some green markings in places. This rope I might leave white with a little bit of shading, I think. Maybe that looks vaguely metallic, I don't know, but we'll go with that. And fill in the rest of these markings with the mid-tone blue, I think. Just turquoise. So here on this part of her tail, we'll go back to the mid-tone. This might actually blend into her actual tail a little bit. I'll try and go as dark as I can. Okay, yeah, I think that's working pretty well. Hopefully those colours are showing up okay on the camera there. But we're moving across to the other side of her tail here to finish off this bottom bit. And let me see this top part of her tail here. We do come in with the mid-tone turquoise colour. That's her tail done, and these little markings here, we did a few in green and some in the mid-tone, so I'll just pop those in. This part of her tail we did in the lighter tone, the same colour as we used for her skin, so we'll pop that in. And these fins are the lighter tone as well, but if we make sure the white is what is closest to the actual tail where that comes in, I think we might be able to get away with that. Alright, there we go. I'm really pleased with that so far. It seems to be working really well. But now we move on to the more complicated bits. We've just finished colouring with this a lighter shade, so I'll go on to colour her skin here. We do have the lighter skin tone coming in here. I'm not sure what colour to do her hair. This is the bit I've left for last because I'm not entirely sure what I would do with this part here. So this would be her marking on her chest here. Let's fill in all those markings so we do actually know what's going on. So this would be marking here. This would be marking here. Yep, that's right. These stripes down her neck, we can maybe just put those in with the mid-tone. I'm not going to bother blending out to white there in those tiny little areas. So this marking on her chin, that would probably be the mid-tone. And chins are kind of rounded, so we'll blend out into the middle of the chin and kind of a rounded shape there. Give a little bit of a shape to her face, as it's hard to do any proper shading with the light tone that we are using. We do have this stripe across her face here as well, so we'll come from the edges, blend into white in the middle. We have this marking down her forehead. I'm thinking maybe a crystal will go well there on her forehead if we're on screen. Yeah, a crystal would go well there, as we did get crystals for our embellishment, which is quite a good one for mermaids. It's kind of right. We're going to bring in the green, I think. Or lipstick appears to have a darker kind of shade in the middle there, so we'll bring in the dark green. And for these markings on her face. And the rest would be the lighter shade, which is kind of hard to show any kind of shading with, so we'll do our best to shade her face here. Try and get a little bit of shading in here, going in quite dark under her chin, just to show the separation between her face and her neck there. Hopefully, anyway. It's kind of hard with this pencil, as I've said a few times. It's a very, very light pencil. Yeah, maybe I should have gone for a darker teal and just made a little bit of a concession to the fact that we're going to be shading with these pencils. Okay, the bits that we know, we'll get those out of the way first. So with the mid-tone, we're going to do this little bit of her hand kind of paint or skin coloration, as we've got the mid-tone on her hand here. So I'll pop this in over the other side. Still trying to shade out into the white and keep with that part of the challenge. We had these bands around her arm. No, we don't have those the other side. Okay, but we'll do those in the mid-tone anyway, because her arm is out there where the sea would be coming in. So we do want the darker green to be showing up against whatever colours we use on her arm here. So we'll do that with the mid-tone. Try and go fairly dark. And these blobs on her arm, we can maybe bring in the green for those markings. I did forget to leave a little bit of white there to show that her arm is being raised up. It is in front of this part of her arm. So I've popped that in with the white gel pen, although I'm trying not to use that as much as I usually do. We are cutting right back on the highlights with this one. Her hair. I'm planning on putting a crystal here. Get on screen, that might help. I'm planning on putting a crystal here on her forehead, see if I can find one pretty big, kind of green, maybe toned one. See how well we can make that work. Okay, decisions. I think maybe these parts of her ears I will do in the mid-tone. Have that blending out into the white as we go further away. We can maybe bring in the light skin tone for this kind of webbing on her ears. But make sure that most of the white is towards the top edges, because I want to bring in maybe the green for her hair. See if we can make that work without getting lost in the sea colour. I don't know. We'll do a little bit of an experiment here maybe. This sea colour would be pretty dark. For these little areas, I'm not trying to fade out into the white at all, but I want to keep a fairly dark shadow behind her hair. I think with the sea, if we fade to the white from the kind of outside of the image here, fade to the white there, and this bit inside here would be fairly dark, and then fade to the white kind of around the outside edges of the picture. That's the kind of idea I was going for with the background, keeping it quite dark around our actual mermaid herself. Bringing in these bubbles in the mid-tone and the lighter tone. And her hair, I'm thinking I can maybe have the green fade out into white and just add a little bit of shading with this green. Possibly, I'm not entirely sure that will work, but we'll give it a little bit of a go. It'll work better where her hair comes around over her actual skin here. And we'll just give it a very light little bit of shading. I'll live with it anyways. And these beads for her necklace or holding up her bikini top here. Using those in the darker green to make her clothes look separate from her skin. Okay, not working as well as I hoped it maybe would, but yeah, I think I can live with it. Again, considering we have such a limited palette here, we have to be a little bit gentle on ourselves. Okay, I'm not 100% happy with this hair being green. I don't think that's working quite as well as I was expecting that to. So I'm going to erase her hair. You can always erase. Pencils are not permanent. You can erase if you're not happy with the way things are going. So I'm going to erase her hair. And I'm going to go in with the mid-tone for that. I think that will work better. Think because the green was crossing in front of her bikini there, we were running into a few problems with the colour being the same. The green was the same, so that wasn't working quite as well as I wanted it to. So I'm trying to keep this mid-tone sort of shading here as dark as I can. It's not perfect, but I think it's better. I think I will go with that mid-tone for her hair rather than the green. The idea just didn't pan out as well as I was hoping that would. Awesome, right. Yeah, I love the way this is going. And now we just have to fill in the background. I have done a little bit here of that background. And what I'm doing, any kind of enclosed areas like this that are close to her body, I'm trying to keep those fairly dark. And the areas around the outside of the image, the very outside, kind of here, I'm going from the dark close to the line art and blending out into the white as per the challenge, the furthest away we get from the line art. So I'm going to go ahead and get all that done and catch up with you again. Because yeah, not the most interesting just watching me colour tons of background here and blending out into the white as we've been doing for the whole picture. So I'll catch up with you when I'm done. And then there's just bubbles left to do, I think, and our embellishment. So yeah, I'll catch up with you in a second. Okay, I've given our mermaid a little bit of a background there, trying to keep the darkest areas of the background closest to the edge where the line art is, around the actual edges of our image, and then fading out into the white as best that I could. Now all we have left to do is the bubbles, and I'm planning to do most of them the same as this one here, with the mid-tone coming in at the bottom of the bubble for a little bit of a shadow, and then the lighter tone as kind of the main body of the bubble, leaving an outline of the white, if I remember to do that, leaving an outline of the white. I might come in with the white pen to cover over this line art here, but we'll see how we go, see how it's looking once I've gone in with my colours. So I'll just kind of refresh our memories what I was actually doing. I was coming in with this mid-tone in the bottom of the bubble. These are transparent and overlapping each other, these two here, so we will be overlapping with our colours and seeing if we can make that work. So that was the mid-tone, this is the lighter tone, that's the main kind of body of the bubble. And yeah, I'm kind of blending into the mid-tone a little bit there with my with my lighter one, which is maybe against the spirit of the challenge with the blending into white. But we have done that for every other part of this picture, so I think if we don't for the bubbles, we might be able to get away with that a little bit. I think that is working quite well to colour the bubbles, so I'm going to go ahead and do that for all the rest of them, and then we're going to find some stick-on crystals, which was our embellishment that we drew, that was randomly generated. We got the stick-on crystals, so I'm going to try and find a few of those that we can stick on. I'm planning to find some big ones for this kind of necklace she has and for the middle of her forehead there, and I'm thinking maybe some little kind of clear diamond sort of crystals I could pop on in the background in place of some of these little circles for these tiny little bubbles. I could pop some of those on there and that might work quite well. But for now I'm going to go ahead and finish off all these bigger bubbles with these two shades. Again, exactly the same as I've done these two here and these two, same kind of method, just with those two shades. I think that's working quite well to give us some sort of bubbles. Sorry for the camera bump. And yeah, I'll catch up with you again in a minute when I've done all these bubbles. Okay, all the bubbles there are done. I'm quite pleased with how they've turned out. And I found some stick-on crystals here, these larger ones that I think might work for her forehead and for this kind of medallion here. Still going with the colour scheme of the green, a kind of turquoise teal. I don't have any teal kind of themed ones here, but I do have some green ones, and I think those might work in place of the necklace and the forehead gems. So I'll stick a couple of those on to get us going. There we go for the larger ones, and those ones are quite big. They might cause a little bit of problem when I do come to colour pictures in the front later on, but I think I can actually live with that. And I do have the kind of crystal diamond ones that I think I could maybe pop on in the background to be bubbles in places where these little tiny circles are. I could add a few of these little crystal dots, as crystals are what we picked out to be our embellishment. I think I can go a little bit crazy with these. Okay, I've stuck a few crystals on there in the background to be little bubbles, and I found a green one here that I've added on the top of this pendant necklace, just to be a little bit of extra sparkle, because we did have crystals for our embellishment. I don't want to go super crazy, especially as these are pretty big crystals here, and this page is one of the last ones in the book. So if I do want to colour any of the pages in front of this, these crystals will be able to be felt through the paper. I'm going to have to make sure I put a lot of paper or thick cardboard in between there if I do colour any of the pages in the front. But I'm thinking right now we are about done, so I'll zoom us out and we'll be able to see the whole picture. So there we are looking at our whole picture, and I'm really pleased with today's effort. I think it's one of the best pages I have actually come up with during one of these random challenges. I think I'm really happy with that colour palette. I think it works super well, especially with the theme of mermaids. I'm hoping this time I did actually pick the right one and not just the one I thought would fit, which I think is what happened last week with my little ginger cat. But in any case, we did have a really limited palette. We were working with just three pencils, and trying to blend out into white rather than blending the pencils into each other, which is what we did on the bubbles. That was a little bit of a cheat, but that is the background rather than the main point of the picture. It's a little bit hard to see on the skin where we were using the mint green, the lightest colour. That is a very, very light pencil, so it was hard to get a lot of differences in tone there. But I think it has worked quite well on the darkest shade, this kind of mid-tone teal colour, and the green that we had going on in the background. That's worked quite well, fading into the white. I was really, really pleased this mermaid ended up having the lightning bolt kind of marking on her tail there. That helped her fit in really well with my theme of storms for this month, and also the theme of mermaids for May. So it was a really, really lucky pick with the random generator. But honestly, there is no cheating going on. That is what was randomly generated. And yeah, I've really enjoyed doing this colouring today. I really love the artist. I love the colour palette. Mermaids are not something I really reach for to colour very often, but I am really pleased with how she's turned out, and I did really have a lot of fun colouring her in. So hopefully that was something that you've enjoyed following along with me today. If you have enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Take care everyone, and I'll see you in future videos. Bye!